Welcome to Marketing Made, where we share real and relevant growth strategies specifically for style-led brands. I'm Madeline, founder of Made Marketing, the agency, and your host. And today we are talking about the buzzword on everyone's TikTok and everyone's lips, and that is creative diversification. I mean, what the hell even is it? And do you actually have it? So most brands that I speak to when they either join at the agency or maybe it's a consulting call, they'll say to me, but Maddie, like we're testing 15 ads per week. We have our campaign shoot. Maybe we're trialing some different creators. We've got some different hooks happening. And on the surface, that does sound like a really solid creative strategy. But here is what is actually happening inside Meta's platform. Today, I'm going to break down what creative diversification actually means in 2026 and why most brands think they have it and they don't, and what you need to be doing differently in order to, I guess, have it. So what I want to talk about first is fingerprints. No, I'm not actually talking about the fingerprints of your fingers. I'm talking about the way that Meta actually assigns a fingerprint for your ads. This is the mechanism. Meta doesn't see your ads the way you see them as an individual. You see them maybe as 15 separate files. Say you uploaded your 15 ads, you're going, whoa, these are 15 separate files, 15 different uploads, 15 different creative IDs in the ads manager. Meta sees something called entity ID. Essentially, a fingerprint is assigned to your creative based on what it actually looks like visually, not what you've named it or how many times you have uploaded it into the ad account. If two ads look similar to the algorithm, so say they have same lighting, same model, same aesthetic treatment, same format, they get assigned the same entity ID. Essentially, they get assigned the same fingerprint. And then this is what happens. They share the same performance history. They share the same delivery expectations. They compete literally for the same audience pool. And any new version that you upload gets no refresh learning opportunity because it's actually prejudged based on everything it had learned from the other ads that look similarly different. This is why you can upload something brand new and you can literally watch it get almost no spend. And this is a common thing that I'm seeing with consulting clients right now is, Maddie, we're uploading so many like new pieces of content every single week and we're putting all this effort into our creative, but nothing is getting spent. There's this one ad that's just getting all the spend right now. Because what Meta is actually doing, if it has decided from previous history of, say, a type of ad that you've done previously not working, it's just going to assume anything that looks very similar to that is also not going to work. Meta has actually shown a lot of documentation around this, and it's actually really surprising to see what they are considering the same entity ID. It could be that you change just a hook, or you might have two different products where they've shot in a very similar lighting. Again, different sort of angles, but the similarity to it, it's actually grouping that as the same entity ID. So this can be really, really hard for brands to actually keep up with the visual diversification that they are needing. And remember, what we see as visually different in Meta's eyes, they don't. And we can't be, I guess, the judges of this. We really have to let the platform and the system hold the power, unfortunately. So the question stops being how many ads are we actually running? It becomes more of a question as a brand owner going, how many genuinely different fingerprints does my actual ad account have right now? So why are, I guess, fashion, jewelry, accessory brands hit the hardest when it comes to this fingerprint strategy? And it's because as these brands, we tend to it's a bit cruel, but we tend to almost have the exact style of content because we've been taught when we launch these brands that you need to have brand consistency. We need to have brand positioning. We need to build brand. And what we will do is we'll have style guides. We'll have a lot of creatives where we have controlled lighting. You know, we may only be able to afford a model, maybe just one, or typically with campaign shoots, we will only have a couple of the same people shooting within our clothes. We'll have a signature art palette. We may work with the same photographer and art director, and everything becomes quite standard. And this is not bad practice. I've got another episode around campaign shoots specifically and how they can affect your ads performance. Because as you know, we do need these to build our brand. We need these for our website. We need these for our EDM. But inside our Meta ad account, it's actually working against you. Because what a style guide does, it produces visual similarity, which is what I'm saying is not going to work within your ad account. So for fashion brands specifically, the easiest way to, I guess, give you an example is your campaign shoots. And again, we have an episode specifically around this. But as you know, we will have same lighting, same model, same color treatment, same editing. In Meta's eyes, everything just looks the same. And essentially, as you're uploading those e-com or those campaign shoots, you're just uploading the same fingerprints again and again and again. Now, for jewelry and accessory brands, this can even become worse because what you'll tend to do is you'll do a lot of studio photography where the background is even really controlled. You'll have really specific controlled angles because of the product and the detailing that you need, shadowing. Everything looks super premium, which is intentional and amazing. But again, Meta is reading this as the exact same thing. It doesn't matter that one is a necklace and potentially one is a ring. It's that the treatment is all the same. And this is why, I guess, jewelry ad accounts in particular, we manage a few of them. Our fatigue can happen a lot quicker. We hit sometimes a ceiling a lot quicker as well. And it's not because the ads are bad. It's just because in Meta's eyes, there's effectively a lot of the same content happening at once. So I'm going to walk through the symptoms that you may be experiencing as a brand owner, and this may help you identify whether you have the problem that I'm talking about right now, which is not having enough creative diversification. So, symptom number one, and I'm sure you're all going to relate to this, your ads burn out super fast. So, say you launch something new in your ad account, it may perform for a couple of days. I hear this all the time. Maddie, we're getting some great sales. Then after about a week, it just dies. And you refresh it with creative that I guess is maybe something else from that content shoot that you did, or you kind of just change it that slightly little bit, and then you pop it in the ad account and it barely gets any delivery. This is the fingerprint problem that I'm talking about. The new asset to Meta isn't really new. It already has expectations assigned to it because of what was rolled out in the ad account previously. Symptom number two, this is one I hear literally all the time. My new ads are struggling to get spend. You upload something fresh, as I mentioned before. It sits in the ad account. We know now we're doing one ad set, and then we'll have our different ads within this one ad set that speaks to the persona, and almost nothing besides maybe one or two is getting meaningful spend. Nothing is actually getting real learning, even to know if it's a failure. And you may assume that it's a weak ad. It might actually be a strong one, and Meta has pre-assigned the same priors based on its visual similarity to that historical content. So symptom number three, you have a lot of creative, but nothing is just breaking through. Your library looks full. There are plenty of assets running right now, but every fortnight or week, you're having the same conversation. Nothing new is winning. Everything feels stuck. This is an account full of no visual variations. It's the same literal content again and again and again. It's the same fingerprint. So what will happen is your delivery will start getting capped at a certain ceiling. Now, if this feels like what you're experiencing, maybe one of those symptoms, maybe you're experiencing all of them, I'm going to help you out here. So keep bearing with me throughout this episode. I think what I just want to touch on now is actually what is creative diversification. And this is where I want to be super specific because I think there's a lot of confusion, and I think there's a lot of confusion around creative variation and creative diversification. And there's also a lot of misinterpretation around what creative volume means as well. So let's talk about creative variation. So creative variation is literally in the title there. You may change the copy, you might swap out the headline, maybe you'll try a slightly different piece of content over a specific video that you've already got running in the ad account, so you're just making a slight tweak. Maybe you will test different products, but it's in the same visual. It looks like progress. It feels like testing, but what Meta's just seen is a lot of noise. Creative diversification is literally changing the format, the face, the structure, the environment, the storytelling approach. It looks like inconsistency to a brand's pursuit, but Meta reads it as something genuinely new, worth delivering into. Then you have creative volume. Creative volume is just in the word. You could upload a lot of creative and, you may hear this, you need creative volume to succeed. But as you can see from the two, creative volume doesn't necessarily mean having success with creative. It just means having a lot of creative. So here is exactly what forces a new entity ID, a new fingerprint. And here are some levers that you can pull essentially. So the big one is quite obvious, which is format is the biggest lever. So say you had a video or a static, you can obviously switch that around. Getting an image and turning that into some sort of GIF or video, or having a video and turning that into a static, obviously changes its entity. This alone is, I guess, one of the biggest underused ones because I think it is quite simple, especially like when you have a great static imagery that you could then, I guess, I don't even think this is a word, but you could gifify it in a way where you can make some of those elements actually move. And a lot of this you can do obviously with your graphic designer, but you can also do this with AI as well. But another one is human versus product. So a product shot on white background that, you have already from your campaign shoot can be swapped out to a real person specifically holding that product or focusing on that product. Again, that creates diversity in terms of having just product only, person with product. The way that they're interacting with the product could be quite different as well. You could then use a different environment in the background, which creates different diversity. Or if you're finding a specific way of a creator holding the product, switch out the face. This is another great way of testing genuinely new angles. The obvious one is different people. And I think this is why I strongly believe UGC won't die. And if anything, it will get stronger because we are super reliant right now on creators, because what creators allows a brand to do is create more content that is diverse. Because if you think about it, hiring 10 different creators creates 10 different looks for you. And essentially you genuinely get distinct new environments because A, their faces are all different. B, they're not all shooting in the same location. And C, the way they portray their content is always going to be different. It's not going to be the exact same lighting or the exact same format as well. You definitely can, with your video content, look at doing different opening frames, but you need to still be really careful that the rest of the video has also some other differentiation. But I also want you to think about, if you do have a video that has a great watch time in your meta ads, can I change the beginning frame? And not just subtly, like could I make a POV style video into a green screen? Or could it start with product over showing a face at the beginning? Could I have someone specifically doing the hook very different to who I had doing it before? So you can really rework a lot of videos that you currently have, or maybe you have a format that somewhat is working, and then you can diversify it by, let's change out some of those scenes, specifically the beginning scene, to ensure Meta feels like it's a refreshed version of something that had potential within the ad account. And of course, there's different storytelling structures. So If you think about a testimonial style static or a testimonial style video, that is very different to, say, like a problem solution narrative or a founder story or a day in the life or a product demo. I have the episode speaking specifically around creative buckets. This is where I want you to think about is like, do I have enough of these buckets that I can relate to as well? So, what does not create a new fingerprint is just changing the copy over the same image. Like having that run within the same ad account right now is going to hinder your results. Different headlines over the same creative. If you just like say you use the same asset and maybe like you resized it or you recropped it, that's not going to be considered fresh new content. Changing just like the color of the background or maybe like changing the grading color of an image as well. And then just like grabbing specifically this would be also for jewelry brands, like grabbing a piece of content that works maybe, and then going, okay, from that same shoot where it looks exactly the same, just swapping out the product. That isn't going to work as well. These all are considered the same in Meta's eyes. Okay, let's talk about the micro persona mistake. And this is what I see constantly with fashion and jewelry accounts. This kind of compounds the fingerprint problem, essentially. So brands aren't just producing visually similar creative. They're almost creating, I guess, conceptually similar creative too. Now, let me backtrack and help you understand this. So every ad is aimed really at that same general consumer. So making the same general, I guess, case in the same general way. So the antidote to this is what I call micro persona mapping. So rather than asking who is our customer, I want you to ask like what specific moment, desire, entity, or any drive or pain point or desire makes someone buy our specific product. And I spoke about this in our episode around what makes people buy from jewelry brands, but I'll touch upon it again. It's really like, why would someone buy this piece of jewelry? Okay, it could be for a promotion. It could be for a divorce. It could be for a friendship. It could be for an anniversary. Each of those people is a different person in a different emotional state, responding to a different complete creative right now. For a fashion brand, the same dress can essentially appeal to so many different people. It could like appeal to someone who's building their professional wardrobe, maybe someone going to a wedding, someone wanting to feel powerful, someone maybe wanting to feel a certain aesthetic. Each of these is micro personas, and they demand a different structure and a different emotional entry point as well. So when you start actually mapping out your micro personas, something important happens. Diversification almost happens naturally. You don't actually have to think about it because you're not making the same ad look different. You're fundamentally making different ads for different moments, and it becomes so much easier. This is where you actually unlock creative diversification. It's not sitting down and going, how do I make this static imagery of this product look really different? It's more like, how can I speak to those different micro personas and build a piece of content that matches where they're at in their journey? So in practice, I work with clients, obviously, when they come to us, we will map out their micro personas first. This is the first thing we do. We don't even look at their content bank. We go, why do people buy from this specific brand, and map that all out. Pick whichever one we feel is our strongest one to start with. Then we start mapping out our messaging angles. Again, we're not even visually looking at what content they have right now. We're not creating content. We're just coming out with our angles. And then we look at how can we create visually different formats, structures, statics, videos that tell the story, that hit the messaging angles, but in Meta's eyes, all look visually different as well. And really, when you nail this micro persona mapping from the beginning, as mentioned, you can start unlocking that creative diversity a lot easier for you as well. And you can start seeing results within the ad account almost immediately when you start implementing this structure. I actually have this test that I do called the 4-second rule. And this really, I think, will help you understand how Meta is categorizing your ads as well. So what I will do is I'll ask myself or I'll ask my staff members, if you were to look at your ads and you say like turned off all the copy, like the caption, and you were to turn off all the music, could you really understand in the first 4 seconds who this ad is for, what problem or desire it speaks to or solves, and why they should keep watching? Now, this isn't just to, I guess, test your hook. It's for you to understand if directly affects Meta's understanding of who this ad is for in order to categorize it. If say the first 4 seconds was a woman holding a product with no context, Meta may categorize the ad a little bit too broadly, and you'll see high spend with low downstream conversion because you're approaching it to the wrong fit or too general. So the one thing I see work with clients is reviewing that first 4 seconds before anything goes live. Specifically, obviously, this is for our videos. As mentioned, if they were to turn the sound off, turn off the captions, could you actually understand this? If the answer is no, you could add a written hook on there. Not a fancy animated one. I've actually told my video editors now, stop making things animated, stop making them fancy, have the hook on there, make it clear, make it really clear who it is for, the problem or desire it solves. And that single change alone could dramatically improve your targeting accuracy on Meta and also improve your results. So, how many ads should you be launching each week? And I talk about the 3-2 framework for creative production. Now, this would be probably for a lower spending account, probably the minimum. So if you were, say, medium or large, what you would do is 2 or 3 times this. What I see, I guess, mistakes with brands that I work with is when they start creating creative, it's almost like they go from one extreme to the other. When I'm like, okay, we need fresh creative ideas, they go, every single ad that I produce now almost has to be brand new, like the concept, the messaging angle, the visuals. And that can become quite overwhelming as a brand founder or someone like maybe managing the creative for an account. So I have a framework called the 3-2. And so at any given time, you should have 3 iterations of your current winning concepts that are working, okay? So if it's a messaging angle that maybe is landing right now, how can I express this in a new format or a new visual approach? I'm not saying put a new hook over the footage. I mean, genuinely, how could I take something that is working right now and change it into a different format? I want to give you an example. We worked with a deodorant brand. And this deodorant brand, we did an us versus other deodorant, like your standard deodorant brands that are in your supermarkets right now. Now, this us versus them went bananas. It took off in the ad account. It was probably our best performer. So we said, okay, this is working right now. How can we level it up? So we got the founder, go down to the supermarket, stand in front of there, pick up a known brand, have yours there, and literally recreate that us versus them in a video. So again, it didn't change. The messaging angle didn't change. We literally took the static, what was written on there, brought it into a video and created a different visual identity for this messaging angle. But it was an iteration on what we already knew was going to work. That's creative diversification. And that's not hard to do. We took something that was working, we knew it was working, and we just created a different version of it. Alongside that, you obviously do need to have net new concepts or your big swings within the ad account. Maybe things that haven't been tested before, which can be different angles, obviously different personas, or different storytelling structures. Okay, so this is where, like I said, you're taking those big swings or going, okay, I have this idea that I want to try out within the ad account. It's completely different. It's so new. I actually thought of another example I want to give you on what we did for a client that was super easy. We had a creator who worked really well. Her whole storyline worked well, the problem solution, whatever we did for that. So the creator worked, the messaging angle worked, we knew it worked. What we did is we just took screenshots of kind of screenshots literally of the video that were working in those moments. And we brought it out into a carousel. So rather than, I guess, hearing the words, people were reading almost like the key moments. And it was telling the exact same story, but in statics and in a carousel. And again, that worked really, really well for us. We knew that also because we know that a lot of older demographics who we were targeting, they love reading things and sometimes they engage more with a carousel over a video. And that was proved when we went live in there. So I guess the goal of the 3-2 framework is to understand, how can I put less pressure on myself as the founder or the agency or whoever's running the ads to keep up with creative diversity and creative volume, but think about how I can be smarter, work smarter, not harder, by creating iterations that Meta sees as new fingerprints or new entity IDs, but are using angles or things that you've already spent money on to test that are validated. And then keep your 2 big swings for net new concepts or net new messaging angles. So as mentioned, if you were that next level up, you might do 6 and 4 or 9 and 6. It just really depends on how much you're spending. So I think Meta last year said they were rolling out some new metrics. I think some accounts have them right now. A lot of mine don't still. The first one was around creative similarity. So this would be one to watch. It's designed to show you when something, is considered similar in Meta's system. And it's essentially telling you that fingerprint problem. Like, are you reaching new cohorts with your ads that you have in there? So this would be a really great one to, help founders, help agency owners, help media buyers understand their creative similarity score. We use a program called Atria, and I think Motion does this also. And we've just noticed that they've rolled this out as well, where they're kind of doing this job for you, because what this program does is it reads your ad account and it shows you like visual reports on every single ad that's running your account. What are the metrics? And it's giving us a creative similarity score in terms of like what's running right now. So if you're using a lot of third-party tools, some of them are actually helping you and doing this for you as well. Meta was also saying they were going to bring out top creative themes, which I guess shows you how Meta is categorizing your creative content as well. This will be a great one as well to get inside the mind of what Meta is actually thinking. And it's a really great insight for you into your creative strategy. But as mentioned, Atria does this also. It kind of like tags the video or the image with a theme, and you can kind of start seeing by these tags being added on there which ones are working the best in terms of getting conversions or website visitors or add to carts, which is a really great insight for you to understand, am I actually hitting enough themes or what's working inside my ad account right now? As mentioned, I think it's 2026 right now, like March, and I know that they released this last year. But I know a lot of accounts right now still don't have it. So it'll be interesting to know when it's going to be fully rolled out, or if it's going to be fully rolled out, because sometimes they backtrack on their stuff, but we'll stay tuned. We'll stay tuned. So I want to bring back to the practical reality of what would production modeling look like to keep up with, creative diversification? Because I think right now you're thinking, it's a shit ton of content Maddie is asking for. How do we even get this much content? And I've broken it down into 4 layers. So layer number 1 is obviously your branded content, because as mentioned, this is still super important. And where I still would start when I take on a fashion or lifestyle brand is, you do have this great content. What can we launch with? And this would be your editorial photography and your videography. And yeah, this still supports everything that you need to do as a brand. So this is our level 1. And of course, we can also take that level 1 and create different formats with it as well. We're not just going to launch your campaign shoot. We could create, as mentioned, GIFs or us versus them, or green screen over it. We can create different versions with your campaign shoot. So they're not going to waste at any point. Layer 2 is your creator content. I strongly believe if you do not have a creative pool of like content creators or even like an in-house agency or just different faces that you can rely on each month, you're really going to struggle to scale with Meta ads. So I think you need to think about, how do I do this? Do I have specific creators on retainer? Personally, because we know of creative diversification, I almost are saying to my brands right now, like, we can just work with them once and like, let's get some fresh faces, because we can almost edit a lot of the other content into new formats. And I would rather try and keep up with having different faces or creating mashups or creating different kind of styles of creative with whatever they've given us before than working with a creator long term. I'm not saying don't do that. If one works for your brand, of course, go with it. But I think ad accounts that we manage would be anywhere from 50 to 80% creator content, because it fuels creative diversification. Not because it's cheaper or anything like that. It's just performs better in the system, as mentioned, because it provides that level of differentiation that they are wanting. Layer 3 is internal lo-fi content. And I think this is underutilized with a lot of fashion brands. I want you to think about your team, maybe your studio or maybe your warehouse or whatever you're doing on your day-to-day, and how can you get quick demonstrations of whatever you're doing? Because we know lo-fi actually works better within the, I guess, ad account, and it creates that differentiation from your campaign shoots as well. So I'm always saying to my clients, prop up your phone and pack an order. We launch those within the ad account. Hang up your clothing on racks. This is great. Have the founder just talking about something that's happening within the day. That can work really well. Unpacking stock that has come, laying it out on a couch or packing it into a suitcase. All this low-file content that you as the founder or you as the internal marketing person can execute like so easy and so cheaply and like literally on your iPhone as well. So that would be layer 3. Layer 4 is customer content. And I think brands really struggle with this one. They're like, I don't know how to get content from my customers. I think inherently over time, this happens quite organically and naturally. And you'll notice that, you know, your brand, your loyal customers or customers that love you, especially in the fashion world, will tag you in a lot of content. So there's no harm in asking whether you can share that as well, or setting up a really strong review system where you're asking for photos or maybe videos as well. A lot of brands that we do work with, when they've gotten to a specific level, we will look at engaging specifically, I guess, customer ambassadors as well, which kind of blur that line between UGC and customer content. But this is a really great way of you getting that content. And essentially, customer content tends to be that lo-fi, which Meta is wanting. But again, it just creates a different environment that you're not already executing within the account as well. So remember, the goal is not to abandon your brand aesthetics. This is definitely layer 1. The goal is to stop letting, I guess, brand aesthetics be the only thing that is within the ad account. So most fashion and jewelry brands think about creative production as a branding experience or like branding exercise. So how does this look? Does this represent us? And to be transparent, I'm working with a fashion brand right now where this has been a big struggle because they've been around for years. And it's more like, does this creative represent our brand? And they really are struggling with this line to cross. But we know Meta right now, this is obviously the right question to ask with your website and your email. But the question to ask for Meta is this considered new content? Because if the answer is no, if your new asset has been assigned the same fingerprint that already something that has happened within the ad account, it doesn't matter how beautiful it is. It's just not going to perform. It will not scale. And essentially, your ads will fatigue or fail. I guess the brands that we are working with where we're seeing the most success within the ad account are ones that do have their polished content and they're investing still in their brand shoot, but they're actually investing more in lo-fi, quick content with multiple different faces, because this is allowing them to keep up with creative volume, creative diversity, And this is helping them scale their ad accounts. So if you're thinking right now, okay, my meta ads have hit a ceiling, or maybe I'm not diversifying my content, you really need to think about what is causing that issue. Is it the fact that we're investing a lot in campaign shoots right now? Are we working with just the same creators? Are we not thinking outside the box in terms of getting that internal lo-fi content? How can I create visually different scenes or visually different creative quickly, cheaply, that doesn't require too much effort? Because essentially, once you unlock what I'm talking about today in terms of micro persona mapping and then having different creative that speaks to them, it actually doesn't become too difficult to pump out what I'm saying here today in this episode. But I would love to know, open up your ads library, your meta ads, or however you're presenting your ads today, and I want you to have them all lined up. This is what I do for a few of my clients. And I really want you to ask yourself, is what I'm seeing here today visually different, or does everything have the same look and feel like it's a campaign shoot, essentially, or a campaign, and I've just thrown it into Meta? If you've answered everything looks the same, that's probably why you're not seeing the results you were hoping for your Meta ads. And I encourage you to change this as soon as possible. So yeah, let me know. Jump into my DMs. I've got my social channels linked before. Send me a screenshot of it. I'd love to know, or let me know your thoughts. But otherwise, thanks for listening. There are a lot of follow-up episodes around this topic, and I can't wait to share them with you.